What's up, guys? Welcome back to another episode of Seoul Therapy, the podcast. My name is Daniel.
Daytona?
Today, just like the previous episode, instead of having our usual conversation about current events in the K-hip-hop and K-R&B community, we're going to be talking about two iconic labels in Seoul Company and 1LLIONAIRE Records and how those two labels became a bridge in making a huge impact in the Korean hip-hop community. As usual, if you enjoyed today's episode, please subscribe to our podcast on all streaming platforms and don't forget to give us that 5-star rating. Also, for more contents, please go and follow our socials at Seoul_Therapy. All right, let's go. So for those who are not really familiar or are not familiar at all with Seoul Company was a Korean hip-hop label that was founded by the Quiett and Kibi. The label started in 2004 and ended in 2011. The artists included Crucial Star, G Slow, Loptimist, Mad Clown, Pento, Planet Black, Prima Vista, Rhyme A, Smooth Tail, The Quiett, and Kibi. But also there were groups that were formed such as Choejokwa, a duo comprised of Fana and Cal Now, Elephant with Kibi and Minos, Loquence with Jerry K and Make Sense, and Syntax Error with Craze Rapper and DC. Finally, we can't forget about the DJs that were at Seoul Company. So the DJs were DJ Dope, DJ Silent, and DJ Wegan, who is now part of AOMG. Seoul Company was an important and a transcending label as they tried pushing the boundary in the Korean hip-hop scene as a whole. So I guess my question to begin is, why was Seoul Company so prominent in the Korean hip-hop scene?
All right. What Seoul Company was to Korean hip-hop was basically what Wu-Tang Clan did for the mainstream scene in the States. They're practically the first, not the first, but probably the most prominent underground label. If you look at the Movement Crew, which was the movement before this, no pun intended, they were they were usually made up of mainstream, they were in the mainstream industry. Like you had record labels putting out their music and stuff. What Seoul Company was completely different. What Seoul Company is they kind of started from the bottom. They tried to make their records independently and stuff.
Yeah.
And they were comprised of teens that were, kind of found by MC Meta.
Yes.
Yes. And they put out this compilation called The Bangers.
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
That's
very popular.
Yeah, that's a legendary compilation album. That's the album that made Seoul Company such an important label and famous among underground fans. Granted, the music is nothing like the Wu-Tang Clan.
Of course.
It's very mellow. It's very sentimental. It's very focused on lyricism, but in the way that is not hardcore, but more it was really mellow music. There's stuff talk a lot of songs about there's lots of love songs in there. Songs about reminiscing about the past and stuff, and something like A Tribe Called Quest would do, I guess.
Yes.
And problem is this kind of movement inspired a lot of underground fans to make their own music. Maybe we can do it too, because at surface level it seemed really simple.
True.
Only problem was it wasn't. So in that sense, Seoul Company inspired this, almost had this clear distinction between the mainstream scene and the underground scene. There are a couple of other labels that did this. Jiggy Fellas was also another crew that did that. Anyway, in an age where underground labels were being made, not through the industry, but by artists themselves, Seoul Company was a very important label that did that. And in that sense, I guess, because a lot of labels, a lot of artists came through Seoul Company. They made major movements later on in the day. The Quiett is from Seoul Company. Fana is from Seoul Company. Pento of Salona 1 is from the Seoul Company. Although Salona 1 kind of preceded Soul Company, and then you have like G Wagon, not DJ Wagon, who was instrumental in A1G's catalog.
Mm-hmm.
You have Mad Clown, who's working more as Mamison, and he has his own label. Like, and Crucial Star is also under Grand Line, I think. Maybe I'm not sure. I think is he still in Grand Line? I'm not sure.
I think he moved to Brand New Music.
If he did, that's good for him, I guess. Anyway, you have these all major players having their careers start from Soul Company as a label.
Yeah.
Yeah, Ilufont from Kibi is in Brand New Music. Minos is in Brand New Music. I think Jisoo is still in Brand New Music as well. Vida Loca and Prima Vista are established producers. L'Optimist is in the States making beats right now, and he's from Soul Company as well. Yeah. And in that sense, Soul Company was kind of like I guess an academy, like an underground academy for rappers. Like,
that makes sense.
Yeah. And all of these rappers like collabed with each other and stuff. Jerry K was also in Soul Company as well. And he went on to found Days Alive, which is another label. Now it's a crew. And a slew of albums, like lots of albums, came through Soul Company under the Soul Company label, and they're hailed as one of the greatest hip hop albums of all time. Fana's first album is a classic. The Quiet's early catalog until the record we talked about last session, like until the Night record, it was like all four of those records came out of Soul Company. Mad Clown had, I think, one record under Soul Company. I'm not sure.
I think he had one.
Yeah, Rhyme Attack also put out important albums under the Soul Company umbrella. Pento put out, I think, one album, one EP or something out of there. Crucial Star also. So you had all these producers. Oh, and Planet Black was also a rapper / producer that kind of jump-started E-Sense's career.
Oh, really?
Yeah, they have a collab album before E-Sense put out any kind of mixtape. Like, I think E-Sense kind of got recognition through a competition that Company, where Soul Company kind of made these contestants remix instrumentals from the bangers. And E-Sense, I think, was that was the first instance where E-Sense got a lot of attention, and that's how he made a collab album with Planet Black.
Interesting.
Yeah, there's actually this collab album. I'm not sure if it's available for streaming services, but you can hear a very young E-Sense on that album. It's interesting.
That's legit.
Yeah, and they also kind of set the standard for mellow music, like how to make mellower hip hop. Because before this, like there were records like Big Deal, there were records like The Movement, and they made pretty hardcore hip hop compared to Soul Company. So like their lyrics were very introspective and stuff like that, rather than trying to look tough. Like Soul Company kind of brought a new kind of a mellower, a softer kind of hip hop that incidentally was important in making hip hop more famous in Korea, because hardcore hip hop was not something that a lot of Koreans liked. They liked more mellower stuff.
That's so true.
Because
that is very true.
Yeah, and like there's this whole discussion between like the ballad rap, which is I think a stupid terminology, but still, like all that pop oriented hip hop, like the source for that can be found in Soul Company. Although Soul Company themselves never did pop hip hop.
No.
But a lot of, I think, musicians who did carve that mainstream pop hip hop lane was inspired a lot by what Soul Company was talking about in the lyrics. So practically no one escaped the influence of Soul Company. No one. Because as the label progressed, it's not like they always made mellower hip hop. Like there were hardcore hip hop acts in Soul Company as well. So in a sense, this label is a good example of influencing the scene and getting influenced by the scene also. Like they're influencers and influenced at the same time.
Interesting.
Yeah. So they were easily the most musically diverse group.
Yeah, I would think so.
Yeah.
I would think so too. And it's pretty crazy because now that you mention about how, Soul Company made a lot more of kind of this very mellowed down style of hip hop.
Yeah.
I'm kind of thinking about it now that Soul Company is very responsible for the transition of where Korean hip hop is today, I would say, because we have the idea of singing rap or,
Yeah.
all different styles of different tones and deliveries that these rappers convey. And I think from what you're saying, it almost sounds like, no disrespect to Master Plan and, the predecessors of the Korean hip hop scene. But I do think now that, what you're mentioning about Soul Company, they're almost like the founding fathers, essentially, right?
Yeah, they're basically look at what all these members individually kind of branched down into doing.
Mm-hmm.
This is a legendary crew by their standards.
That is true.
Yeah, the Quiett alone.
Mm-hmm. Of course.
Interesting thing here is the Quiett was kind of one of the main members, I guess. Because he was responsible for producing most of their beats, and
that's true.
Yeah, so it's it's almost as if how the Quiett is regarded as the OG of OGs right now.
Right.
It's possible because he had this kind of career. He was a curator. He was kind of the master plan behind everything a lot of the times, even before 1LLIONAIRE Records.
That's true. That is true.
Yeah, so in a sense, yes.
There is an artist that I kind of want to kind of discuss more about. His name, obviously, we all know him, Prima Vista. But he is I would say, very mysterious in ways.
Yeah, it's actually a famous meme here.
I don't have any idea who Prima Vista is besides the beats and the songs that he produced.
No one does.
And evidently he produced many songs for 1LLIONAIRE Records, right? So
what happened was Prima Vista was a student of the Quiett.
Oh.
But problem is no one knew who he is. People still don't know who he is.
Interesting.
Yeah, and so it went to the point where people thought Prima Vista was the Quiett's alter ego.
Huh.
And the Quiett says, no, this is a very real person. He has his own birth certificate and stuff like that.
Interesting.
And I think there are I'm not sure if I can find it if I search it for it now, but there are instances where Prima Vista was caught on tape and stuff like that. That's why, if you look at Prima Vista beats, there are lots of similarities with the Quiett. For instance, how do you say this? If the Quiett is Pete Rock, I guess.
Really?
I regard the Quiett as the Pete Rock of Korea.
You know what? But then again, that's true. His sounds, his beats are kind of like Pete Rock's.
Yeah. He knows it himself. He said it himself. His style comes from Pete Rock. And even the boom bap beats he makes now is still reminiscent a lot of the times by Pete Rock stuff. And
most definitely.
That hard drum kits, but the source is a little bit mellower and stuff like that.
Yep.
Prima Vista kind of is the right-hand man of the Quiett at this point. That's why he made so many beats for 1LLIONAIRE. That's why, because if you're a CEO, you can't spend a lot of the time making music all the time.
Of course.
So what Prima Vista ended up becoming was basically being the Quiett for the Quiett.
Interesting. Yeah. I mean, I'm not surprised by that.
Yeah, and if you look at his production credits, he branches out a little bit at the times, but mostly he makes beats for people who are connected to the Quiett directly. People, Ambition Music members, 1LLIONAIRE members. So yeah, I think the Quiett mentioned it himself. Someone asked him why isn't the Quiett as producing as much as back in the days, and he just said, "I'm too busy to do that."
Yeah, of course, he's managing his
he's managing his labels, artists, and stuff like that. Rapping alone is taking up a lot of his time. Mixing engineering and all that stuff. So at that point, the Quiett mentioned that Prima Vista makes beats for me anyway. So
that's true.
I mean, you can still hear the quiet beats from time to time. Especially when he produces for other artists. But
Yeah.
he hasn't put out his own music for quite a while now. So
Yeah, I think we're all waiting on his Q Train 3
yeah,
because I do remember him posting on his Insta saying that he is slowly preparing for Q Train 3 that is
yeah.
slated to drop this year. So
I think he's going on a little bit of a different creative spree. Like usually he starts the session and doesn't come out publicly,
yeah,
and then somehow he returns with a bam. He kind of returns with an album, but
that's
with
true.
all the program appearances on TV and stuff, I guess he has to change how he works. Now he's just working anytime he has working by making time, in little pockets of time, and then I think he will kind of compile all of that and curate it and put out an album this time. So
Yeah, dude, I'm really excited. I'm kind of actually curious to see
exactly
where he's gonna go.
It's very different, and he lately kind of expressed some doubt, I guess, about trap music because now everyone is doing trap now. It's not as fresh as it was back in the days.
Yeah.
So I mean, even the beats he made for Owen, Poem 3, those are completely 2000s Pete Rock stuff. That was just boom bap to the fucking core. There was So I don't know. I don't know what he will come with. Last time, Glow
Q-Train
Forever.
2. Glow Forever.
Yeah, I kind of expected it. I think he'll go in this direction. I kind of expected it because his features were aligned in that way and stuff like that.
Yeah,
but this time his spectrum is he's doing really whatever he wants to. He's making boom bap beats, but he's featuring on trap beats. It's he's doing whatever he feels like at the time. So I'm not sure. I really don't know what his new record is going to sound like at all.
Yeah,
but
it's exciting. I mean, it's unpredictable with the Quiett because he's very, no pun intended, he's quiet. He's just very, kind of not really known out there. If he makes his presence known, then he'll make it known. But I think from Q Train 1 to Q Train 2, I think there was a slight difference. Maybe the sound got a little bit more upgraded.
It was more cleaner. And if you think about it, Q Train 2 was mostly trap beats.
Yeah, it was.
Yeah. I mean, it's not like the southern boom trap shit, but the samples were very jazz oriented, but the drums were definitely a lot of the times trap oriented.
Yeah, it had more of a mellow trap. It wasn't very overpowering, but it was very calm trap.
Yeah, exactly. More luxurious, I guess. Kind of.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I always liked him over that kind of production, so.
Yeah.
I don't know. I trust the Quiett, though. I mean, he's the Quiett. He's going to come up with something fresh at this point. Yeah.
Yeah, man. Yeah, so, unfortunately, after Seoul Company had disbanded in 2011, which is very unfortunate, that very same year, however, the Quiett went along and formed 1LLIONAIRE Records with Dok2. While Seoul Company had many members, 1LLIONAIRE only had 3 members, which was the Quiett, Dok2, and Beenzino, although Prima Vista was also part of 1LLIONAIRE Records.
Basically, yes.
Yeah. 1LLIONAIRE, in a sense, was the first independent label that focused on the idea of freedom in terms of the business and the musical side of things. 1LLIONAIRE Records went on to make a major impact on the Korean hip-hop culture, especially in the mainstream culture and the way they represent themselves in the Korean culture, with the idea of flex and freedom. And of course, everybody knows their label song, YGGR, went on to make huge noise in the Korean mainstream music charts. So, man, it's just, to me, the fact that we don't have 1LLIONAIRE Records anymore, it's just
a lot of people expressed that.
Man, it was just, and granted, they were there for 10 years,
Yeah, 10 years.
I really thought that they could have continued it, but obviously, there were a lot of things, I think personal stuff, I would say, that happened. Because I want to say it was more of a business issue, but maybe it was more personal stuff.
Actually, about that, Soul Company kind of disbanded because of business problems. Like, there was like beef between members at the time. I'm not sure how they feel about each other right now, but the reason they broke up was, like, first of all, Soul Company kind of began to fall apart when the Quiett said, "I'm not doing this shit anymore." He believed that the music was becoming too stagnant. And as Soul Company transitioned from a crew to a label, like, there were problems regarding business. I don't think it's like someone took a random money or something, but it was still like problems with distribution, a lot of the stuff. And they believed that this is not a music company anymore. This is more of a business shit. And that's why the Quiett decided to leave Soul Company. And ever since that happened, I think the Quiett tried to make sure that as little, like, as to make the company as small as possible, because Soul Company had a ton of members, and
they had a lot of members.
Yeah, and the problem with being independent, in a sense, because Soul Company was not truly independent at the time.
No.
Yeah, because I think that's what caused the problems. You know? Like, with so many people, and everyone wanted to eventually growing out of the mold and trying to go somewhere else. And Soul Company became a business by, like, having deals with publishing companies and stuff. It was like, you have to stay together. No, we don't want to. Like, why are you making music like this? Because I want to. Like, those kind of problems, you know?
That's true.
Yeah, I think that kind of taught the Quiett a lesson, which is why he broke out and made 1LLIONAIRE records with Dok2, and all they cared about was, in the best sense possible, like, I don't care, we're gonna make money with this shit. We're gonna remain 100%. Yeah, we're gonna remain 100% independent. And basically, throughout their career, I think the only deal they made was distribution.
Yeah.
Which is, so who cares about distribution anyway?
That's true.
Yeah, as long as you have your own publishing rights, it really doesn't matter. So in that sense, 1LLIONAIRE kind of was a very natural progression in retrospect, but at the time, people hated the Quiett for it. Like, they hated the Quiett. Like, it's like this. Imagine if a rapper made like a record like Wu-Tang's, and then after about 10 years, they proceed to make Rick Ross type of shit, like Port of Miami. People shitted on Quiett so much about that. Like, he even addresses it in his first album out of 1LLIONAIRE Records, like on the song 2 Chainz and Rollies. There's this clip where the Quiett is ranting about, he's not even rapping, he's ranting about how these motherfuckers are so hating on him so much. And he's like, fuck y'all, I'm going to do whatever I want. There's a small clip, like, if you listen to that song now, there's a small clip where he does that. He's like, he's like cursing at these haters. Like,
I mean, by the way, 2 Chainz and Rollies is a pretty good song.
I
really like that song.
It definitely is. Like, but people hated it at the time. Like, why are you talking about chains? Like, why are you talking about money? You used to talk about, like, deep emotions. You used to talk about, like, philosophical lyrics. Why the fuck are you just flexing right now? Like, why did you sell your soul was basically what everyone was saying. But look at retrospect, he was right. Because 1LLIONAIRE was responsible for, like, blowing up Korean hip-hop beyond, like, whatever Soul Company did. Because,
for sure.
Because without 1LLIONAIRE, we would not be here. That's why... Yeah,
100%.
Yeah, that's why I say, when it comes to, like, mainstream hip-hop, like, people are saying, oh, all they talk about is money and chains. All they talk about is flexing and shit. That is an essential part of hip-hop culture.
It is.
Yeah, seriously. So, like, if I see a rapper that's from the ghetto, didn't have jack shit, but talked about flexing, and now he has chains, and now he has cars, I don't look at that as selling his soul. I look at that shit as, damn, he really made it out.
Exactly.
Like, this weird conservatism. Like, of course, as I always said, there has to be a balance in the game, of course.
Exactly.
But this weird hating against people who made it out, people who actually began to earn money, and people who really deserve that money, And hating against that is just, I'll never understand it. It should never be understood because that is a whack ass opinion.
Yeah, I mean, it's
like, why the fuck? Because people really hated the Quiett, and it was not even a minority of the people really hating on him strong. It was a majority of people shitting on him. And if you look at it in retrospect, like, even, I guess if you become a jackass after the fame and the money, like, then you deserve to get shitted on. But the Quiett never became a jackass. He's reinvesting all that money into the scene, even, like, rookies that he doesn't have connections with. Like, it's just...
And that's my issue. And that is my issue with, no disrespect to Korea, but that is one of my biggest issues, especially when it comes to the hip-hop culture in Korea. It's, let that man live, right? Why is he getting all that? Are you doing it? No, right? It's, the man is working hard. Look what he's doing. The man set up 3 labels. 3 labels, bro. Soul Company, 1LLIONAIRE, now Daytona. I mean...
He actually was responsible for Ambition Music as well. So that's 4
Ambition
labels.
Music as well. Exactly. 4 labels. And for people to just, trash him or to bag on him like that for, changing his style or making a different transition, I just think it's just so... It's just weird. So disrespectful. It's not even weird. It's just disrespectful because the man... I remember when I have this Korean hip hop book and I used it for one of my projects, and it talked about how he struggled, early on in his career, and he's an essential case of starting from the bottom, and you know,
that's why 1LLIONAIRE made sense.
Exactly, and it's a perfect representation of that.
It's not like privileged rich kids making dumbass music. It's like actually. In a sense, I'll even go as further to say that 1LLIONAIRE music has the soul, like when it comes to like the soul in the music,
Yeah.
Like 1LLIONAIRE has more of that, in my opinion. There's more dramatic. There's a sense of more dramatic theatrical stuff in 1LLIONAIRE stuff.
Yeah, for sure.
And, he was right.
If you look at... He was totally right. And if you actually listen to 1LLIONAIRE Records compilation album, the label album, right? That album is pretty much a response to the haters. It is.
That's classic at this point. That should change hip hop. Yeah.
It's a response to the haters. Yeah. There is a song called We Here 2. I know they had We Here 1, but We Here 2 is the quintessential response to the critics or to the haters.
Yeah, that too. Even aside from all the flexing. By the way, no one does this against the Quiett anymore. Like the Quiett really changed like public opinion. Everyone likes the Quiett now. It's hard to find people who hate for the Quiett. And even people who don't care about hip hop are saying like the Quiett seems great. Like it was right. And another sense we have to talk about is it's not just what kind of music they made, but the context of making such music. Like, there wasn't that Southern trap boom shit before this.
No.
Like, you had rappers like Masta Wu kind of doing a little bit of the Dipset 50 Cent stuff. But you didn't have rappers that were heavily influenced like by Rick Ross again, like Chief Keef and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And these are the first people to do that. And in a sense, kind of at first, not only people did hate Quiett for it, they also said he will never make it like this because no one cares about music like that in Korea. All of them were fucking wrong. And and if 1LLIONAIRE was not an independent label, this wouldn't have been possible.
That's true.
So in a sense, like I look at 1LLIONAIRE Records as something like Raucous Records in the 90s. Because it's weird because they make a totally different kind of music. When it comes to musical styles, they're on the opposite side of the spectrum, right? Like if you look at records like Company Full of Funkershire Plus or Black Star albums, they're really against materialism. They're super conscious and stuff. But it's interesting because this independent as fuck kind of mantra is the same. Like they're same in the sense that people told them that kind of music won't make it, and they still made it with that kind of music.
Exactly.
So that's, I think, what Illionaire represented. Like, you can be 100% independent. You can make whatever music you want, and you can still make it to the fucking top. And that's a sentiment that resounds across all kinds of musical spectrums. Like, you'd see rappers like Kundi Panda, who's completely not about materialism. They're still influenced by Illionaire because of that.
Exactly.
That kind of fuck the mainstream, we're gonna do whatever we want mentality is applicable to any kind of hip hop. There's zero need for you to appeal to the masses as long as you can cultivate your own fan base. That's what Illionaire has taught. Like, there's before Illionaire, like, being independent had this staple image where you need to be poor, where you need to be about the art, not about commercial stuff.
Yeah.
Like, bitch, if you're starving, it doesn't fucking matter.
That's
like,
true.
Let me talk about this. This kind of fits in. In the States, there's a rapper called Mock Homie. He's a affiliate of Griselda Records.
Okay.
He doesn't put his music up on streaming services. He sells it through his websites only, and he gets like $1,000 for every physical copy.
Wow.
And he sells out every time.
Wow.
And it's almost impossible. It seems impossible, right? But he gained such a cult following. Like, he's being heralded as like the post MF Doom or anything. And
oh wow,
yeah, people love him. Like, if you find people that there's like, how does this guy have so many fans? When he's completely circumventing the industry, and he circumvented the industry to the point where the industry is now kind of trying to match up to him. Jay-Z had dinner with him. Drake is shouting him out. And I think it was May. Last month he put out an album on the streaming service through Tidal. I think it was Tidal exclusive at first and stuff like that. Like, I'm not saying Mac Homie was influenced by Illionaire, by the way.
Of course.
I'm not saying that. It's just saying that kind of mentality was impossible in Korean hip hop. In the States, it was.
Yeah,
you had rappers in the States, like you had rappers like Nipsey Hussle. You had other underground rappers making names through their own business models and with their own mixtape circuits and stuff like that. That shit was impossible in Korea. No one thought that was possible. Illionaire did it. That's what makes this label such a potent upgrade for the culture as a whole. Like, fuck these major label motherfuckers. I don't care. They don't understand hip hop. They don't know shit about them. I know. So I'm going to do whatever I want to with my own fucking label. And they did it. And not only they just be able to make a living out of it, they topped the fucking charts with it. That's what Illionaire was about. Being independent, being motivated, being independent, having your own business model, doing whatever the fuck you want, and still, it was basically proving all these haters wrong. And now, at this point, everyone is influenced by Illionaire, not just in this business. If you're not influenced by the business model, you had all these trap rappers, they're all sons of Illionaire. Without Illionaire, they wouldn't exist at all. I can go in and say it. They will say it themselves. No one will say it.
And you know what I love about Illionaire Records was the fact that they actually forgot about the idea of using contracts, paper. They're like, forget about that. That's not what we're about. We're all about just freedom. Freedom, 100% freedom, creative control. Yeah. And this is what we're going to do. And whether you guys like it or not, this is who we are. And this is what we're going to do moving forward. And 10 years later, to where we at now, or last year before they disbanded, unfortunately, dude, look at the type of impact they were making, right? Dude, I remember in one of the earlier Show Me the Money, Bobby from Icon, he did a cover for YGGR, and I remember in Show Me the Money season 5, I remember Flowsick doing a cover of Dok2 song, Rap Star. Yeah. So the fact that you get a lot of these, influences or inspiration from Illionaire, it just goes to show that, dude, who cares what you make, As long as you are headed in the right direction, as long as you know
Time
the boundaries.
Will solve your problems.
Yeah.
Exactly.
I think boundaries was really key to Illionaire Records, especially with the Quiett. Just the dude was never really in a controversy, you know? The dude was just himself. He's just quiet again,
Exactly.
you know? Yeah, so, you know, and then when they made the offer to Benzino to join, I think that just
That resonated.
elevated.
Yeah, I think that resonated with Beenzino a lot because if you think about it, Beenzino's music at the time was not considered by mainstream labels.
No,
And
not at
I
all.
think Benzino kind of valued that creative freedom over everything.
Hmm.
Like, if you look at his music, it really doesn't follow conventional commercial codes.
No, not at all.
Like, I think he's the person that is responsible for rewriting the commercial code. Like, before
Interesting.
Beenzino, there was a very fixed commercial code. You have a poppy ass beat, and you get a singer chorus that's more famous than you.
Hmm.
Then you write about two verses in, and that's a song,
Yeah.
that's a hit. Beenzino was completely different. Like, Beenzino made it without features. Beenzino
Yeah.
made it, and he rewrote the commercial code in the sense, I think he made rap hooks popular again. But in a sense where it's not like blatantly rap hooks, but somewhere between singing and somewhere between rapping. But not to the point where you would actually call it like melodical singing rap.
No,
Yeah,
of course not.
yeah, and I think that became a standard for at least like 5 to 10 years. That's how to make a commercial song. So it's a very idealistic case of an underground aesthetic becoming the new commercial aesthetic. Like you look at stuff like Boogie On and On, or you look at stuff like Dolly Von Picasso.
Yeah.
You'll
Yeah.
never see another Dolly Von Picasso. That shit was not
No.
supposed to blow up commercially, but that
No,
was everywhere. Like
It was.
It's a great song. Like with
Very good song.
it's a super jazzy beat. He's rapping on it. He's not like doing like the rapidy rap on it. He's like really having a layback flow on it. He's not even talking about having a relationship. He's talking about these dope art metaphors.
Yeah.
And somehow people were gravitated toward it. That song was everywhere. You couldn't escape it. It wasn't the cafes everywhere. Like people put it on like in the streets. You can hear it everywhere.
Yes.
Like people like I was a student back then, so like kids were playing it in school all the time. Like everyone was like Dolly Von Picasso. Bitch, you don't know who Salvador Dali is. Like,
yeah, it was the talk of the town.
Yeah, and still like seriously, people who didn't know who Dali was, people who didn't know Van Gogh was still some because everyone knows Picasso, right?
Yeah, of course.
But no one like Dali is not as famous as Picasso, but they didn't know who Dali was. Then they're still going Dali Von Picasso.
Yeah.
Like I think people began to know who Dali was. Like people who were not even interested in art, like had that song such like burned into their heads. Like who's Salvador Dali and stuff. Like he changed the game. It was really weird to not talk about love songs, to not be about love songs, to not even be about the struggles of the common folk, but being such an abstract art metaphor. Making it that big on the charts was really interesting to see.
It was, and I think what Benzino brought to 1LLIONAIRE Records was a sense of balance, because we always talk about the idea of having balance is the key, or having the balance is so critical in the music industry, especially in the Korean hip hop scene. I think what Benzino did when he signed on to 1LLIONAIRE Records was that he brought that balance of kind of like that jazzy, more of that kind of. It's like, kind of conscious, but not conscious. You know, it has that mainstream color. It has that underground color. Yeah. And I think that's what he elevated that
with the whole
that label.
Jazzy facts.
Yeah.
Discography bleeding in. I think it makes sense. Like Dok2 and Beenzino are like the opposite spectrums, and the Quiett is right in the middle of it, kind of thing.
Exactly.
Like, because if you think about it, Dok2 was just trap all day. Like,
oh yeah, for sure.
He was the quintessential trap rapper. Like mixtapes every fucking year. Like mixtape everywhere. Beenzino was the more reserved one. He like put out a project like every 3 years or anything something. And the Quiett was right in the middle, like, because if you think about it, like the Quiett has some of that jazzy shit too. Like he started off of that and he kind of retained that. Because if you think about it, like even if you look at his first 1LLIONAIRE record, like if you look at his first record in 1LLIONAIRE Records, the Ambition tape, Like that.
There was a lot of jazzy stuff.
Yeah, like the 2 Chainz and Rollies is like about 2 songs out of like 15 or something.
Yeah,
Because it was most of that super luxurious trap. Again,
it was.
like the stuff like Rick Ross is doing now, not back in the
Mhm.
day. Like Justice League kind of production, like Just
Mhm.
Blaze kind of like sheen to it.
Mhm.
So it was a nice trifecta of
Yeah.
both the image and the musicalities. But when they fused that together, it made so much sense. Because
Mhm.
Beenzino wasn't talking about being dirt poor.
No,
Beenzino wasn't talking about like the gritty mob deep kind of street shit. He was
no.
he was he was talking about art. If you're
Yeah,
talking about
very.
art,
Yeah.
chances are you're not broke.
No. Yeah, it's very artistic.
Yeah.
He's very artistic.
Yeah. So in a sense, like I'm not talking about his music being artistic. I meant about art, like just art being a very
Yeah.
important like lyrical focus in his
For sure.
yeah. So all of this like this trifecta put together just screamed luxury. Like
Mhm.
it screamed like Dawn shit, you know?
Yeah.
And I think that made those three have so much chemistry.
Yeah.
Toki especially, like Toki is the when it comes to even rap styles, like Beenzino had all these crazy flows, like
Mhm.
you know, and the Quiett had a very steady kind of flow,
Yeah.
and Toki is the one who's like doing the super flashy,
Aggressive.
flashy and aggressive stuff. So
Yeah.
it really melded well together, all of
It
it.
did.
Yeah, I think that's the point. That was what made Illionaire music, the music that came out of Illionaire, so interesting.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
something I want to quickly point out was from Benzino's EP 24, the
Mhm.
one with the picture of the camel on it.
Yeah.
Dude, I just love how that album had again a balance, dude. It had had a sense of R&B with
Yeah.
Aquaman,
Mhm.
and there was a song with the Quiet Summer
Summer
Madness.
Madness.
Yo,
That was Mac
I
Miller
mean,
shit.
yeah, dude.
Mm.
I just love the way he kind of drew out that album. You know,
Mhm.
it's very colorful. It had,
Yeah.
like you said, the art to it, and
Yeah.
I think
Yeah.
what Benzino did was just amazing.
I think
And-
that's the perfect way to put it. Actually, Beenzino's music is like Mac Miller
Yes.
with Lil Wayne chains and tattoos.
Yeah. Yeah. Hey.
That's actually a great way to put it.
Yeah,
Yeah, definitely. Yeah.
for sure. Well, you know, as we begin to slowly wrap up our show, as usual, any artist or tracks that you're currently listening to and would like to share or recommend to our listeners? For me, I was actually going to pick the Quiet song because we were focusing on, you know, his labels, but you know, I kind of wanted to switch it up, and I actually went with more of a producer because I love producers, you know, when they make their own solo album. So I went with Toil.
Yeah.
And he has a song called Forever You, but this one's a remix.
Yeah.
And it features Yamta, Changmo, North Face God, and Don Mills.
Yeah.
And yeah, and it was off of Toil's first album called Curtain Call. Yeah, the original version is with Mush Venom and Uneducated Kid.
Yeah.
But I just love how the song brought back the early 2000 K-pop sound, you know, like that Taeyang's music, kind of like from Big Bang. And I just love how Toil was able to compose a very, you know, transcending or a very, you know, classic K-pop sound, but with a twist of that trap infused, you know?
Yeah.
And I just love the casting in the Forever You remix.
Yeah.
Come on, you have Changmo and Don Mills, although I don't know too much about North Face God, but I heard he's a upcoming artist.
Yeah. He is a yeah, actually you know, a little bit of interruption. Like North Face God is like the way he announces it words.
Yeah.
It's so hilarious. Like,
It has a comedic effect
yeah,
to it. Yes,
I think
I will
that's
agree.
his shtick. Like he's trying to make comedic stuff.
That song, I mean, I don't know. It's just so catchy. It's
Like,
groovy.
That's the song with a little bit of the techno feel, right?
Yes.
Yeah, that's actually an homage to like to 2000s pop in Korea.
Exactly.
You had lots of that. I'm not shitting on the song. I'm just saying, like, it has a very cheesy feel to it. A little bit.
It does. It really does.
Yeah, because that was what it was like back in the days. Like,
Yeah, of
that's
course.
that's the quintessential, like the hook and everything is the quintessential 90s Korean pop experience. And when I heard that track, I can't believe he did this. Like,
Yeah.
it must have taken balls to do this, because that cheesy ass aesthetic really fails spectacularly if you fail at it.
Yeah, it does. Yeah.
They pulled it off. And
Agreed.
about that track, Don Mills has a verse on it, and like, but people were talking about that verse because Don Mills got married recently.
Yeah.
And he's talking about being super adulterous on that verse.
Oh,
like, he's being really
goodness.
ironic with it. And he had this whole Instagram run about that verse, about how he got beaten up by his wife and everything. After, like, he's a newlywed talking about being adulterous as fuck. So it's, of course he's not actually adulterous. He's being super ironic. And people were talking about it like, this is the bravest verse in the entire history of Korean hip hop and stuff like that. It was really funny.
I mean, all in all, I just loved the classic sound, but also the comedic tone to the song.
Yeah, it was a very in your face kind of, like, there's no way you can take this song seriously kind of thing.
I think for me, Yeomda's hook really saved the song.
Yeah.
Let's face it. I think Yeomda's hook to the song really gave me that vibe.
Yeomda's melody is what made this such a throwback. Like, the beat and
really
Yeomda's hook is what makes it. Yeah, this is just 90s Korean pop. Like in like 97, 98, like HOT and stuff like that. That's super cheesy ass melodies. Like,
all in all, they did pull it
Mm.
off. Yeah, so all in all, I would recommend. I personally love it, so I would recommend Toil's Forever You remix version.
Yeah.
Although the original one's good, but I prefer the remix version. So definitely go check out Toil's Forever You remix.
Since we talked about Soul Company, like, everyone knows it in their catalog, so there's no need for me to recommend it. I'll take a track off of the Bangers compilation. Like, the album we just talked about this session. There's a song. This is a legendary classic track. And by the way, you and I have to make that playlist one.
We do.
Yeah, Dan.
We do.
And that playlist. I'm putting this song in that playlist because this is such a legendary song. It's a song called Ah E I O U.
Okay.
Ah E I O U. Oh, actually, and each syllable represents a vowel. And there are how many? Wait a minute. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. That's 6 vowels, right? 6 rappers each construct their verse around that vowel. Verse.
Interesting.
So the first rapper tries to make lyrics that talk about use the ah vowel as much as he can.
Interesting.
The second verse is constructed around the e vowel. The
That's
third
pretty cool.
E, like the fourth O, and stuff like that. So each verse has a vowel that is particularly emphasized. This is one of the most finest displays of lyrical dexterity in hip hop history.
Okay.
Jerry K does the first verse, Juana does the second, Planet Black the third, Kibi the fourth, the Quiett the fifth. You'll know when you hear it. And this was the track that made people listen to the Bangers compilation. The Bangers compilation is full of great beats and extremely well constructed lyricism and rap performances. It sounds a bit dated, but that's what you get when you talk about records in the past. But this track was what made people go crazy. Like, oh my god, how are they doing this kind of shit? Like, the beat was very jazzy and bright in the best way possible as well.
Of course.
So definitely listen to this track. Like the lyrical concept of it is so dope. Like, this is one of the finest displays of ebonics in
for sure
Korean hip hop history. Like, like there's this constant like like that vowel sound in the first and the second.
Interesting.
So it's like, oh, they're actually really rapping like the title.
Okay.
So yeah, definitely check it out. This is what Koreans consider great lyrical display. You know what I mean? Like these kind of records kind of really push the boundaries of Korean hip hop lyricism. Like because back in the days, like in the 90s and 80s, you had all these linguistics professors in Korea saying that you can never rap properly in Korean.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, this is a whole nother discussion for another session. But in the starting phases of Korean hip hop, like the establishment shitted on Korean hip hop because they never thought that the linguistic structures of Korean allow people to rap properly. And in the 2000s and the late 90s was basically rappers trying to prove it otherwise. Like, fuck you, we could do this. All y'all professors don't know shit. We know what we're doing.
Oh, wow.
And that kind of drive and motivation really drove to incredible lyrical innovations within hip hop. And because you're actively trying to prove the system wrong. And they did, because right now, no one is saying that you can't rap in Korean. Actually, Korean is one of the few languages in Asia that has a fully developed lyrical structure. And theory, in a sense, the theory of how to rhyme. So this was one of the classic tracks that was an essential part of that movement to prove the establishment wrong. So it's a historical artifact. It has great production, great lyrical performance. Check it out. This is what made Seoul Company such an important record label in the first place.
For sure, for sure. Well, that's all the time we have for today, but please do comment and let us know what you think of today's topic. And if you enjoyed today's episode, please go and subscribe to our podcast on all platforms, and please give us that 5-star rating. If you want more K-hip-hop contents, go check out Daytona's Instagram at MYK_Daytona for K-hip-hop album reviews, and also follow our social media page at Seoul_Therapy. Thank you guys so much, and see you guys next time. Peace!